In this video, we are going to learn the in-depth, step-by-step process of how to create your very own rustic-style 3D Union flag. Whether you want to create one of these for yourself or as a gift for someone else, it's a great way of learning and putting into practice the basics of woodworking. It does not require any expensive tools and it can be done on a low budget. The techniques used in this video can also be applied to create other flags as well. So even if you don't want to create one of these, you can create just about any flag you like. Let's get started. The two main tools you will need are a panel saw, preferably a fine-tooth panel saw, and a screwdriver. For your screwdriver, you're going to need a standard drill bit. You will also need a 1.5mm drill piece. This will be used to drill the pilot holes. It's also recommended that you have a countersunk piece. This will stop your wood from splitting when you drill into it. What really makes these flags stand out is the burnt effect around the edges. And this is created using a standard blowtorch. These are really cheap. You can pick them up for about £10. It's really good for creating a gradial effect burn on your wood. However, if you don't have a blowtorch, you can get away with a camping stove. You can use many different types of hardwood and softwood for this project. In this video, we are going to be using Scots pine and Scandinavian red pine. These woods have beautiful grain patterns and will really help make your flag stand out. Firstly, you'll need to get about 2 meters of 95mm by 45mm, 2 meters of this. You'll want 3 meters of 45mm by 25mm. The main wood that we'll be using in this project is 45mm by 12. You'll want to get yourself about 14 meters of this one. And finally, we'll need to get ourselves some decorative portrait trim. You'll want to get 3 meters of this, along with 3 meters of 9mm beading. When sourcing your timber, try and use your local timber merchant. They tend to stock better quality wood and are often considerably cheaper than your big chain DIY stores. They will often let you take away all their scrap wood for free. So even if you're doing this on a budget, consider going to your local timber merchant. When selecting your timber, try and look for pieces of wood that have a nice grain pattern. This will really help give your flag some character. For this project, we are not going to be using normal paint. We are going to be using water-based wood stain. Water-based wood stain sinks into the grain as opposed to covering it up. So it really helps to show off the wood's natural qualities. And when you combine this with the burn, you get a really nice finish that you won't get if you use normal paint. So do look for water-based wood stain. It is expensive stuff, but a little goes a long way. You will need 100 milliliters of red and 100 milliliters of blue. To seal the wood stain onto your piece, we are going to be using clear gloss. You don't have to use gloss, but we highly recommend it if you want to get a really nice shiny finish. For assembling the flag, we are going to use 20mm screws along with wood glue. Try and make sure you get high strength wood glue that dries clear. You'll also want to make sure that you get some D-rings. These will be fastened onto the back of the flag and will enable you to hang it. The backboard, or canvas on this piece, is made up of 11 slats, each 37 inches long. You can use your panel saw to cut these to length. Try and make sure that all pieces are the exact same length and are square. Once you have all your pieces cut to the correct length, 37 inches, you are now ready to lay them. Try and make sure that the nice side of the grain is face down, as we are assembling this piece upside down. Here you can see I have created a jig. This helps to keep all the slats nice and tight and level. Once you are happy with the positioning of your slats, you are now ready to screw them all together. For this, we use 4 shorter pieces of wood, each 18 inches long. Make sure to drill pilot holes and use a countersunk piece as well. Once you have your 4 shorter pieces cut ready with their pilot holes, turn the pieces upside down. You are now ready to screw them on to your backboard. Try and lay them slightly in from the edge, draw a line, and once you're happy with the positioning of them, screw them down tightly onto your backboard, leaving no gaps. Once your board is ready, you can remove it from the jig and you can now turn it face up. This is the main canvas of your flag. You're going to want to make sure that you sand the edges down nice and smooth. Here I am using a detail sander, but you can use a normal sanding block if you don't have one. Once all your edges are nice and flush, we are now ready to measure out and mark the position for the main center or St. George's cross. Measure to the halfway point. Your flag is roughly 94 centimeters long, so you'll want to measure approximately 47 centimeters in and draw a vertical and horizontal center line. Make sure to drill plenty of pilot holes along the line. To make the design look more bold, we are going to lay the vertical cross first. Really simple to do. Take your thicker 95mm by 45mm piece of wood. Lay it on your flag, measure the top and bottom. You can use a tri-square to make it more accurate. It's important to mark out the halfway point on this cross. Position it with the center point on your flag. Once you're ready, glue and screw it onto your backboard. Remember to lay the nice side of the grain face up. For the horizontal cross, it is recommended that you use the same piece of wood. Position it on your board and cut approximately halfway. It'll give it a really cool effect of the wood going underneath the vertical cross, especially if you burn the edges before you glue and screw it together. Before we burn the flag, it is a good idea to make sure all your edges are smooth, especially on the cross. Take your blowtorch and lightly burn using the tip. Try and use this in a smooth flowing motion going back and forth. If you miss a section, just go back and redo it again. If you burn a section too dark, don't worry, just use some sandpaper and you'll be able to get it back to normal again. On this design, I try and make sure that the edges have a heavier burn. It really gives the effect of the flag drawing you in. Once your flag is burnt, we are now ready to apply the wood stain. It's worth marking the white section of the flag with a bit of tape. This will help keep it neat, and it'll also mean that when we glue the wood here, it will stick to the backboard better. For these designs, I use 2 coats. Apply the first coat and then allow 1 hour to dry. When applying the wood stain, it's a good idea to use plastic gloves. Wood stain is highly concentrated, and if it gets on your hands, it can take forever to get out. So do throw on some gloves before you start applying the wood stain. Once your wood stain has dried, we can now apply the gloss varnish onto your flag. It's a good idea to make sure that your workspace is clean and clear of dust. Any dust or particles in the air may land on your gloss while it is drying, which could ruin the coat. You will want to apply at least 3 coats of gloss onto your flag if you want to get the colors to pop like this one here. Allow up to 3 hours between coats to dry. You don't need to use gloss varnish for this design. You can get away with using just the wood stain itself. Once your gloss has dried, you can use very fine sandpaper on the top to get rid of any imperfections. We are now ready to wrap the main cross with our 45mm by 25mm wood. Firstly, you'll want to cut your piece of wood at a 45-degree angle. With your edge marked, chop off the excess and you can repeat this 7 times. It's important that you burn these pieces before you screw them on. If you try and burn them after you've screwed and glued them, you could actually damage the gloss that's already set. So do make sure you burn these pieces before you stick them onto your flag. Once you are happy with all 8 pieces, you can now move them to the side and drill 2 pilot holes for each one. Remember to countersink these on the other side. Once you're ready, apply a thin bead of glue and screw them onto your backboard. When screwing these pieces onto your board, take your time and make sure they are all tight and in position. We are now ready to lay the Scottish saltire section onto the flag. This bit can be quite tricky. You want your cross to be as accurate as possible. I'd recommend using a straight piece of wood to find out the exact center point at which you will lay the 45mm slats of wood. Once you have found and marked out your center point, take your wood, lay it on top and use your steel rule to mark out the cut point. For each corner of the flag, we're going to use 2 pieces of the 45mm by 12mm wood. I'll explain why this is handy later on in the video. You can use a panel saw to make the cuts for this section. However, if you have a bandsaw, it will really speed up the process. Once all these pieces are in position, you can now remove them and burn the edges. Once the edges are burnt, you can take the pieces, lay them on your flag, find out the center points, drill your pilot holes, countersink them on the rear, and when you're ready, glue and screw them into position, making sure that the edges line up nice and tight. The flag is mostly complete. We just need to lay on the cross of St. Patrick. A lot of people make the mistake of putting the cross in the center of the saltire, but this is actually incorrect. You want to make sure that the cross is offset counterclockwise on each piece. You can use the center line of your saltire to line it up. Take your decorative trim, place it above your saltire, mark out the cut points for each. Once they are cut, burn them, apply the red wood stain and 3 coats of gloss. Once all 3 coats of gloss have dried, you are now ready to stick the piece onto your design. For this, we're going to use wood glue. To achieve the strongest bond, I'd recommend using some weight. This will really compress it and make the glue bond much stronger. The flag is almost finished, but there are a few finishing touches that we're going to do to complete it. We're going to use 9mm beading to seal it. And on this, we're going to put a reverse burn in the center. This will really help make your flag look a lot more expensive. Now that the face of the flag is complete, we can add the D-rings onto the back. Turn your flag upside down, screw these on, and put some rope in between and make sure the knot is tight. If you want to make your flag look more golden, you can apply some linseed oil onto the wood. Don't apply it onto the gloss sections, just the exposed pine. This will really raise the grain and make the flag look more golden. Once your flag is finished, give it a check to make sure it's perfect. If you're going to use pallet wood or recycled wood for this project, it is a good idea to check the moisture content. Wood that is wet and has a high moisture content, above 20%, this will dry out over time, causing the wood to shrink. If you want to create a really nice piece like this, you have to use dry wood. hope you enjoyed this video on how to make a rustic Union Jack. This specific flag that I have here is my Independence Day edition. I have included a plaque on the front which marks the date at which Britain was set to become an independent sovereign nation. These flags make great gifts for friends and family, and they look amazing in hotels, bars and restaurants. If you're considering making these flags for selling purposes, you can expect to ask for anything between £80 to £250 depending on the quality, the size and the buyer. If you are interested in purchasing one of these flags, check out dramaticscotlandcreations.com. We are also on Facebook. We have loads of other types of flags for sale, and we also do them in shield designs as well. We have free postage in the UK, and we can also do worldwide postage. If you have any further questions about the construction process, drop me a message and I'll try my best to help you. Thank you very much for watching.